Welcome to Embracing Salvation. My name is Sean, and I will be your host for this episode. I'm going to ask if you would stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Going to start out today talking briefly. We live here in Vero Beach, and we got hit pretty good with Hurricane Milton. Not nearly as bad as what we could have, so we're thankful for that. Just a couple of things I'd like to point out that I think we'll touch on the last podcast I did, and that is all of our neighbors. We had a good wave of about 45 minutes of tornado after tornado, heavy wind after heavy wind. Heavy rain, and every neighbor came out after that 45 minutes, and everybody was checking on everybody. If somebody came out of their house, somebody else walked down to them and asked them if they were okay and if they needed any help with anything before the next outer band got to us from the hurricane. I'm sorry, once again, I'm just not seeing all the hate that everybody talks about. As I said in the last podcast, there's many ethnicities that live in my neighborhood, and every one of them talk to each other. So stop, again, with the hate. And remember, that hate is in you. It's not in everybody around you. So those feelings, they're your fault. You have the ability to change that. And the only way we can change that is by talking to each other. What causes you to hate me? What causes me to hate you? Don't know, because I really don't know of anybody that I've ever straight out hated. But we can come together, but we only come together through communication. Communication doesn't happen because you yelled at me or I yelled at you. It comes through listening and then explaining my point of view. With that, I am going to go into what I intended on talking about today for today's podcast. And please forgive me because I will not be looking at the camera because I would like to really just read straight through this. So thank you. I thank you for listening, and I know on many of these apps they have that button where you hit that bell, hit that like, hit the bell, whatever, and share it. I wish that all these apps also had a dislike button. And with that, my question would be, even if you dislike what I say, would you share it or would you stop my freedom of speech with you? Totally your decision. Again, I'm working on setting up a chat room that ideas and opinions can be shared. I would ask that you not respond in anger if you disagree with me and start name calling or threatening anyone. I'm not going to respond to that. I'm not even going to read it as long as it's hateful. I'm not even going to read it. That is the only way we will get to a solution or understanding of how to live peaceably, even if neither of us change our mind. As much as I would like to discuss the upcoming elections, which should be called selections, I chose a different path that hopefully helps you understand why I feel the way I do. And if this explanation makes you mad or worse, or makes you feel better, the response is totally your fault, not mine. First, I don't care the position or title or background. Neither candidate has the power to divide us or to bring us together. That power stays with us, we the people. So please stop praising or blaming anyone for how you feel and accept that you are responsible for how you feel, good or bad. So different approach to my opinion on elections, fact check, go ahead. Please do, because I did not. What I'm about to tell you for the next couple of minutes is strictly from memory. That's why I didn't include a dollar amount or dates. Fact check, go right ahead, correct the dates and actions, but don't manipulate or leave something out because it will make your person look good or the other person look bad. That's called false witness. You're a liar. I'll start with President Carter. I was 6 years old when he was elected, so keep in mind that one might be a little shady. President Carter, when President Carter was in office, Iran hijacked a plane full of American hostages. Not sure how many days they held them, but it was quite a while. Ronald Reagan was then elected into office and took office in January, and Iran chose to return the hostages very soon after he took office. Russia, at the same time, elected a new president, and soon after they experienced a military coup in which President Reagan reached out and vocally encouraged the president of Russia and said, "America stands with you, President Gorbachev." The wall that represented the division of people was torn down in Russia, not a matter of border security for the sovereignty of a nation, but the separation of the people. Yes, we have a wall that needs to be torn down, but it is not on the southern part of this nation. It's in the hearts of the people in this nation. So now we'll come to President Bush, the one who he took office. The first President Bush takes office. Another nation threatens a friend of ours close to their border. We send our military to protect said friend and try to work out a deal with the invading nation. That nation decided that it believed that it could defeat the forces we had in the region. It was wrong. Soon later, there was a peace treaty signed, and now we'll move up to President Clinton. Not the first president to be inappropriate in the Oval Office, just the first one to get caught. Then the whole pot smoking thing, did he or didn't he inhale, made no difference to me. What mattered to me is that he gave billions of dollars of aid to a nation that hates us and threatens us and would destroy our way of life if they could. But we give him billions. As the 42nd President of the United States, that was a horrible decision. You can't buy peace. Donald Trump took a picture with the dictator of that country, and everyone opposed him and wanted him removed from office. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm sure that they got more weapons and technology with the 42nd President's gesture of peace than they did with the 45th President's gesture. So, I'll go to President number 43, President George W. Bush. Unfortunate for him, as president, he would have to deal with the event of September 11, 2001. And it had us at war for right at 20 years. Unfortunately, without solving the true issue. In my opinion, we struggled with the Afghan war because we waged it from a point of revenge instead of a point of justice. And I did not agree with the second war in Iraq, but now moving on to the 44th president, President Obama. Unfortunately, he found out that he was unable to finish or end any of the war or conflicts we were in. But he gave billions of dollars to a nation that chants death to America, not Republican, not Democrat, or any other party or group of people, but America. They don't care our ethnicity, they don't care our religion, they don't care how many children you got. They chant death to America. If you live here, good enough for them. They didn't divide us by our religions or ethnicity or any other way. They used the flag of the United States as doormats. They did then and they do now. The 45th president, Donald Trump, for the first time in a long line of presidents that tried to create a peace in the Middle East, he made the most progress by leaving the nation that stopped any agreement before from working out of the conversation. By the way, my children and grandchildren have not gotten anything from me when they throw a temper tantrum whether as children or adults. And people that never want to take blame for their part in a conflict, I don't try to reason with them very long. Not because I'm mad, but because they aren't thinking rationally. And yes, at times I can be irrational myself in a moment or a situation. But if I want peace with someone, maybe I need to become flexible in my thinking. No, I did not get off topic by talking about my children, but when a nation insists that another nation cease to exist so that they can expand, I don't have time to listen to you any longer. Because it's not just that nation you want gone. That you get rid of them, you're going to think it's okay to start threatening the next nation you think you can stand against. Not okay. No, and I need to become flexible in my thinking. No, not going against my belief or my faith. And maybe that's the problem. Everyone assumes that they're weak if they're flexible. Well, if you look at all the broken pine trees after Hurricane Milton, the point where it broke is the spot that it was no longer flexible. He also cut all access off from Iran as he could. President number 46, Joe Biden, immediately started undoing what the previous president done, despite the fact that the previous president was voted in because of those things, just as every president before that was voted in because of what they ran on. Also, not only did 2 wars break out since Joe Biden has been president, but he has given billions of dollars once again to Iran, a nation that hates America, and told the 2 countries that were attacked without provoking the nations that they can defend themselves, but that they should use restraint and not attack the other nation back or stop them from attacking them at all. Now, specific to this election, if Donald Trump's policies benefit the wealthiest people in America, why are the wealthiest people backing Kamala Harris? Just asking a question. Don't get mad at me. I've made up my mind. One more thought on this. How about you? Tell me, instead telling me why I should vote for you without involving your opponent, and that's for all sides. Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, tell me why we should vote for you. Don't tell me what's wrong with the other person. We see those flaws ourselves. Remember, Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them that despitefully use you. It doesn't translate into give your enemy the means to attack you or allow it to continue. And I'll just point out that women and children have no rights in Iran. Though they fight for them, they don't have any. And if they find out you're homosexual, they'll kill you. How's that for no tolerance? So, are you supporting the person who is looking out for America and our best interest, or their own? Hopefully, the last political issue is abortion, but I'm sure something else will rise up. First to government, Christians, hospitals, and doctors. If there is not provisions in the laws that allow for abortion in the case of life-threatening to the mother, not life-altering, or rape, not you slept with someone from the bar and got pregnant, or incest, I'm sorry, but you don't believe in the right to life. And other than those circumstances, I believe that every soul that God puts on earth has a reason and a purpose, even in rape and incest. But I can understand the desire to get an abortion in those cases. But because I didn't want children or I'm too young, it'll ruin my career, I'm against it. But at the end of my life, I'm responsible for how I treated the souls that I encountered in my lifetime, not the souls you encountered. I'm also not up for it being used as a means of contraceptive. After all, we do know these days what causes people to get pregnant. And by people, I mean women. Now, I know that as children, we walked around and thought that there were some men pregnant, but they never gave birth, and they still look pregnant. Okay? So let's not go there. I'm going to spend a few minutes now talking about the Bible. Just a few things that I'd like to point out before next week's podcast. Why I chose Christianity over everything else that's out there. I'm going to point out some things that I've never really heard mentioned, not saying that they haven't been. I've just never heard them. This book tells the story of everybody, whether they were past, living now, or going to live in the future. You can find yourself in this book. And not only do you find yourself, but you find a God who loves us, a God who desires for us to do well and to please Him. Not ourselves, but to please Him. The way we do that is we begin to understand this book. And the great thing about this book is it tells us who we are. It describes itself as a mirror for us. It tells us who we are, who we can be, who God wants us to be, and how to get to that point. Don't look at it, and everybody says, I hear a lot of people say, oh, there's so many versions of the Bible, how do you know which one to trust? I personally like to read the King James and New Life. And I'm going to correct this real quick. They call these versions. They're not versions of the Bible. It is a translation from the Hebrew and the Greek into today's vocabulary and language. Okay? Just like if you look over in Ezekiel, they use a term that is called the watchman on the wall. Today, in America, we call them first responders. They're the ones that come out to make sure that everything is right and to get you out of the situation of danger. Please, stop calling it a version. It is a translation. It all means the same thing. It just translates into today's language and culture. So next week I will begin to talk about salvation, why I chose this, and maybe I'll have a guest, maybe I won't. But I do thank you for listening and allowing me to share. Have a great day.